Hi, Peter Charles here, folks, for Life Fly Fishing. And today we're going to look at tying the Pheasant Tail Flymph. Now, if you've not heard the term Flymph before, it's kind of awkward to say, isn't it? Flymph. Anyway, what it's about is basically taking a nymph and adding a soft hackle, wet fly type hackle to it. And there's lots of variety out there, and they're essentially a very buggy looking wet fly. If you took a Yorkshire wet, for example, and you made it more buggy looking, thicker body, a lot of fluffy body, maybe a tail, that's where we would be going with the Flymph. So today we're going to tie a pheasant tail, and we'll add a hen hackle to it, and you'll see what a Flymph looks like. So let's get started and look at the material. The hook is a size 14 dry fly hook. Because I often fish these types of flies in the surface film or just below it, I don't want too heavy a hook. My thread is 8/0 dark brown. The tail comes from a pheasant quill. The thorax is peacock herl. And my hackle is a brown hen. And I try to get a hackle that's sort of close to the reddish brown of pheasant tail. So we'll start by tying on our thread right at the very back of the bend of the hook. And we'll put a little bump there, a little bump of thread. And what that does is it helps splay the tail. Now we'll take our pheasant tail. I've got 3 barbs of pheasant tail here. And I'm just going to put a couple of wraps in there. And I'm just going to bring my thread forward, about halfway roughly. I'll put a half hitch in here. Now I'm going to grab this rather carefully with my hackle pliers, and these are easily broken and they easily slip out of your hackle pliers, so go easy with it and don't catch the point of the hook with them. Don't put too much pressure on it. Now we're going to go about halfway, maybe a little less, about there. Now, this pheasant barb is a fairly easily broken type of material, so if you wanted to, if you had some access to some fine copper wire, I'd suggest putting a wind of copper wire in there to hold it. But it's not mandatory, and you know, I find that they usually survive a few fish before they start to come apart. But they still catch fish even when they're coming apart, which is kind of funny. So the next step is to tie on our peacock herl. I've got 2 here, that's enough. I've matched the tips, and I'll tie on at the base. I'll bring my thread forward to wind that on. Now I'm going to use a dubbing loop technique, and the purpose for this is to add durability to the peacock herl, because there's a tendency for peacock herl to break. And I'm just going to put these together and use my hackle pliers to grab a hold of them. I'll just put a half hitch here. Now I'll spin this. I'll just work these twists up, spin them up. Here we go. Yeah, I'm going to tie a fairly thick, go back and forth and tie a fairly thick thorax here. It'll help the hen hackle to stay upright, flare out I should say. Okay. And I'll just clean that up. Give myself some room for the hen hackle. Now what I've done with the hen hackle feather is I've stripped off one side, and you can see I've not left much on there. It's about a centimeter, you know, 3/8, 5/16 of an inch. And I've cut a little triangle out of the tip for our tie-in point. So I'll just bring that in here, and I'll just pull it back away from the eye of the hook. Okay. Again, we go back to a half hitch tool. I like using a rotary vise for this job. If you don't own a rotary vise, they're very handy beasties, and they make this type of work very, very easy. Again, be careful you don't break the quill of the hen hackle. Now, I'm just going to wind this on one turn in front of the other, trying not to trap any barbs. There we go. Sometimes this breaks and sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't break, you have to come in here and cut them. Now I'll just make sure all this is pushed back. And all but finish. One of the things with soft hackle wets is I like to take a toothbrush and try and get those hackles to separate. Now at this point we just add our head cement and we're ready to go fishing. It's a very effective pattern. It imitates a broad spectrum of emerging mayflies. You can use it anywhere, anytime you see hatches going on, you can fish this fly just under the surface film. Give it some movement and it'll look just like an emerging mayfly. So give it a try, the Pheasant Tail Nymph. Enjoy.